The car ahead of you stops. Yours doesn't. And in the quarter second before the impact, something impossible happens. The world slows down. You can see the brake lights blooming red, your phone sliding across the dashboard. And you have time, an enormous, unhurried amount of time, to think one calm, clear thought. This is going to hurt. Then the noise. And it's over. Half a second, start to finish. But it didn't feel like half a second. It felt like you stepped outside the clock. Almost everyone who lives through a sudden accident describes some version of this. Time dilating, the world dropping into slow motion. And for 100 years, that feeling has pointed to a strange and wonderful possibility. That in the moment your life is threatened, your brain shifts into a higher gear. That you can, for an instant, think faster than time itself. It's a beautiful idea. It's also, almost certainly, wrong. Let's start with how real this is, because it isn't rare and it isn't imagined. In the 1970s, two psychiatrists, Russell Noyes and Roy Kletti, gathered the accounts of people who had survived moments of sudden, life-threatening danger, car wrecks, falls, near drownings. Around 3 out of 4 described the very same thing, outside time seeming to slow to a crawl. And the closer someone came to believing they were about to die, the more likely they were to report it. The terror and the slow motion arrived together. So what is actually happening? The intuitive answer, the one that just feels true, is a kind of overclocking. Adrenaline floods your body. Your brain, sensing the threat, starts running faster, sampling the world at a higher frame rate. Like a camera shooting 1,000 frames a second, you capture more of every instant. So every instant stretches out. Bullet time, wired into your own head. It's such a satisfying explanation that, for decades, almost nobody tested it. But it makes a very specific, very testable prediction. If your brain really is running faster, if you genuinely see more detail per second, then in those stretched moments, you should be able to perceive things normally too fast to see. A hummingbird's wing beat, a flickering light, numbers changing quicker than the eye can follow. Which raises a nearly impossible question. How would you ever test that? You can't wait around for car crashes. You would have to take an ordinary person, truly terrify them, make them believe, at least for a moment, that they are falling to their death, and measure their perception while they did. So that is exactly what a neuroscientist named David Eagleman set out to do. Eagleman and his colleagues, Stetson and Matthew Fiesta, built a small device that straps to your wrist like a watch. It shows a single number, but the number flickers, alternating with its own negative image, back and forth, over and over. Speed that flicker up and the two images smear into a meaningless glow. You can't read the digit at all. Slow it down and the number snaps into focus. For each volunteer, they found the exact tipping point, the flicker rate just barely too fast to read. Then they set the watch a hair faster still. On the ground, unreadable. But if fear really did speed up your perception, if the world really did drop into slow motion, then the flicker should slow down just enough to become legible. The watch was a test you could only pass if time truly stretched. Then they dropped their volunteers off a tower. It's called a suspended catch air device, a controlled freefall, no rope, falling backward 100 feet straight down into a net, hitting 70 miles an hour before it catches you. 2.5 seconds of real, genuine, hair-raising terror. People screamed. Their fear was not an act. And on the way down, they stared at the watch on their wrist and tried to read the number. They couldn't. Not one of them did better than a random guess. In the middle of real, screaming, falling terror, their perception had not sped up at all. The world was not in slow motion. The frame rate never changed. And yet, here's the part that cracks the whole thing open. When Eagleman asked those same people afterward how long their own fall had lasted, they overestimated it by about a third. They remembered their own 2.5-second fall as dramatically longer than the identical falls they had just watched other people take. So the slow motion was real. It just wasn't happening during the fall. It was happening in the memory of the fall. And that quietly changes what time even is. Here's the reframe. Your brain has no clock. There is no organ inside your head that ticks off seconds. So when you ask it, how long did that last, it can't check a stopwatch. It checks its memory and essentially asks, how much is in here? A stretch of time crammed with detail gets read back as long. A thin, forgettable one gets read back as short, and terror packs the memory to bursting. When you're afraid, a small almond-shaped structure called the amygdala lights up and, as the memory researcher James McGaugh spent his career showing, floods the moment with stress chemistry that tells the brain, record everything. This one matters. Do not forget. The result is a memory of extraordinary, unnatural density. Every brake light, your phone caught mid-slide across the dash, burned in at maximum resolution. Later, when you replay it, all that density has to mean something, and your brain reaches the only conclusion it can. An event this rich must have taken a long time. You never lived those seconds in slow motion. You just mistake a thick memory for a long one. Now, a careful note, because this is the good stuff and it's easy to overstate. That one test measured one narrow thing, whether your eyes gain resolution. They don't. But it was a small study, and no experiment can promise your mind does nothing special under threat. What the best evidence says is simply this. The slow motion you remember was built afterward, in the recording, not lived in the moment. Time, it turns out, isn't a clock your brain reads. It's a story your memory tells you afterward. And fear is a very, very good storyteller. Which leaves one last, quietly unsettling thought. If your sense of time really is just a measure of how much you remember, then it isn't only crashes that bend it. Ask yourself why a single childhood summer felt endless, and why now whole years seem to vanish faster and faster. As a kid, everything was new. Every day laid down thick, first-time memories, and the summer stretched to the horizon. As an adult, the days blur into routine, the memories thin out, and a year can slip past, leaving almost nothing behind. William James noticed exactly this back in 1890, and the math of it is quietly brutal. The richer your memories, the longer your life feels from the inside, which is the strange gift buried in all of this. You can't experience slow motion. You can only ever remember it. But you can choose to live a life your memory refuses to compress, to keep walking toward the new, the difficult, the unforgettable. Not to make your days pass more slowly, to make them, in the end, feel long. Liked this? Hit like. Want more? Hit subscribe. It's a 2-second way to help this little channel grow, and it means the world. See you next time.